Okay, Josh, you need to see this. I am holding a receipt that is, and I am not exaggerating, longer than my arm. It's ridiculous.
Uh-oh, the scroll of shame. I know it well. What's the damage?
The damage is existential. I went into the supermarket for one thing. One. I needed a carton of milk. I even said it out loud to myself in the car like a mantra: milk, milk, milk.
Mm-hmm. And did you emerge with milk?
Oh, I got the milk, but I also apparently needed a bulk package of frozen shrimp, three different kinds of artisanal cheese, a scented candle that smells like enchanted forest, and this is the kicker, an inflatable kayak.
A
Kayak? An inflatable kayak. I live in a third floor apartment, and the nearest body of water is a public fountain. What happened to me in there? Was I hypnotized?
In a way, yes. Chelsea, my friend, you weren't just shopping. You were a victim of the Gruen effect.
The what effect? The Gruen effect? Is that why I feel so green around the gills looking at this bill?
It's named after an Austrian architect, Victor Gruen. He designed the first modern American shopping mall. His goal was to create this immersive, utopian space that would make you forget the outside world.
Okay, I'm with you so far.
But retailers discovered that this immersive environment had a side effect. It intentionally disorients people. The layout, the lights, the sounds, it all combines to put you into a slightly confused, suggestible state. You forget your original mission.
Forget my mission. My mission was milk. I forgot milk and remembered kayak.
That's the Gruen transfer. It's the moment your brain switches from being a directed, goal oriented shopper into an aimless, impulse driven buyer. And supermarkets have perfected this.
Okay, Professor Josh, deconstruct my psychological downfall. Where did it all go wrong?
It started the second you walk through those automatic doors. Tell me, what's the first thing you saw and smelled?
Oh, that's easy. The flowers are right there, so it smells amazing. And then, bam, the bakery. The smell of baking bread and cookies. It's heavenly.
It's a trap, a scent trap. Those smells are designed to do two things. First, create a pleasant, welcoming atmosphere, but more importantly, the smell of baked food triggers your salivary gland.
My mouth is literally watering right now just thinking about it.
Exactly. It makes you feel hungry, even if you just ate. And what does a hungry shopper do?
They buy frozen shrimp and artisanal cheese. Oh, you are blowing my mind right now. That's so manipulative.
It gets deeper. Right inside the entrance is what designers call the decompression zone. It's a wide open space with sale items and seasonal displays.
The kayak, that's where the kayak was, in a big display with beach towels and sunscreen.
Right. The decompression zone is designed to slow you down, to make you transition from the mindset of parking lot warrior to leisurely browser. You're not even in the main aisles yet, and they've already got you.
Okay, so I'm hungry, I'm decompressing. What's next in this house of horrors?
Next, they make you turn left. Think about it. Most stores are designed for a counterclockwise flow of traffic.
Counterclockwise. Wait a minute. I do that every single time. Why? That's so specific.
It's because about 90% of the population is right handed. So you instinctively steer your shopping cart with your less dominant left hand, leaving your dominant right hand free to reach out and grab things off the shelves.
No, stop it. That is insane. It's like they know us better than we know ourselves.
They've spent billions on research to make sure of it. And speaking of the cart you're steering, have you noticed how big they are now?
They're huge. They could double as a studio apartment in New York City.
That's another trick. Studies show that if you double the size of the shopping cart, people buy up to 40% more. Your brain sees all that empty space and gets a little subconscious nudge to fill it. A carton of milk looks lonely in a giant cart.
But a kayak really fills out the space. It all makes sense now. So I'm wandering around with my giant cart being led by my right hand. I still have a mission, though. I need milk. Where is it?
Let me guess. It was in the absolute furthest corner of the store from the entrance.
Ding, ding, ding. Of course it was. I had to embark on a quest, a pilgrimage to the dairy temple at the back of the store.
Right. They put the essential, high demand items milk, eggs, bread, and meat as far away from each other and the entrance as possible. It's called market basket analysis. They know you need those things, so they use them as bait to force you to walk past thousands of other products.
So, on my epic journey to the milk, I passed the chip aisle,
Uh-huh.
the soda aisle, the fancy new energy drinks, the imported chocolate section.
Exactly. The more of the store you see, the more you're likely to buy. The aisles themselves are a maze. They use brightly colored displays on the end caps to draw your eye and pull you down aisles you had no intention of visiting.
Okay, this is getting spooky. Let's talk about the shelves themselves. I feel like there's a trick there too.
Oh, the shelves are a masterpiece of psychological warfare. The most expensive products, the big brand names with the highest profit margins, are placed right in the middle, at the average adult's eye level. It's called the bullseye zone.
Because that's where you're most likely to look. You don't want to bend down or reach up if you don't have to.
Precisely. The cheaper store brands are usually way down on the bottom shelf where you have to hunt for them. But the real genius is what they put on the lower shelves in certain aisles.
Let me guess. The cereal aisle?
The cereal aisle is the perfect example. Look down to a child's eye level, about 3 feet off the ground. What do you see?
All the sugary cereals, the ones with the bright colors and the cartoon characters on the box, and the characters are always looking right at you.
They are. They're designed to make eye contact with children. It creates a connection. This is to leverage something marketers call pester power.
Pester power. I've seen it in action. The kid sees the cereal, they start begging, and the parent eventually gives in just to get some peace and quiet.
It's an incredibly effective strategy. So, after all that, you've survived the maze, you've got your milk, your kayak, and a cart full of things you didn't know you needed. You head for the checkout. You're safe, right?
Oh, I have a feeling I am not safe.
You are entering the final boss battle, the checkout line. It's a gauntlet of pure impulse buy.
The candy bars, the magazines with the celebrity gossip, the little bottles of soda.
All of it. By this point, you're tired. You're suffering from decision fatigue from the thousands of choices you've already made in the store. Your willpower is at its lowest, and you're a captive audience while you wait in line. It's the easiest time to get you to throw a few more cheap, high profit items into your cart.
I am never going grocery shopping again. I'm going to live in the woods and forage for berries. This is horrifying. I feel like my free will is just an illusion. How do we fight back against this grocery store mind control?
There are a few ways. First, and this is the most important rule, never ever shop hungry. You've already experienced why. Have a snack before you go.
Okay, rule 1, snack first. Got it.
Second, and this is your greatest weapon, make a list, a physical list, and be ruthlessly disciplined about sticking to it. Your list is your shield against the Gruen Effect. It keeps you on mission.
A list. So simple, yet so powerful.
It is. And if you can, try to avoid the cart for small trips. If you only need milk, just carry the milk. You can't buy a kayak if your hands are full.
That is brilliant. So, the lesson here is that I need to be more prepared and less suggestible. And I probably need to return an inflatable kayak.
Probably a good idea, unless you have sudden plans to go explore that public fountain.